Hello and welcome to the Subvert Podcast, your entry into the land of no easy answers, as we journey through the vagaries of the mind, attempting to unravel the mysteries of why our brains brain.
Cheers.
Cheers! Living
To
forever!
living forever. Wah.
Anyway, welcome to the podcast. This is the Subvert Podcast. You've been here before. You better have. Subscribing,
But also, if
liking,
you haven't, welcome.
liking all of this stuff here. You're liking. Anyway, I'm Aaron Stewart. This is Kristen Remore.
Hello.
And we are going to have a talk today about some stuff. Yeah.
Fascinating.
I know.
I like stuff.
Yeah.
I also like things.
Ooh,
and
stuff. Well, you'll like this stuff. It's like a shot or something they can give you that'll make you live 30% longer.
Oh.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. Apparently, they've developed a way of getting us closer to the immortality I crave.
Yeah. And by us, you mean less than 1% of the population that can probably afford this shot that will make them live forever.
No, surprisingly, it's just filtered water, and everybody will get a shot. So they're
Okay, but actually, is it available to everyone?
Well, I don't know if it's gonna be available. They've apparently just done trials,
Okay.
kind of thing. So they say they've unlocked the way of kind of it's essentially trying to kind of rejuvenate aging cells, a means of trying to clear away some of the stuff that accumulates over time. And I guess this drug that they've developed allows, I think it was the mice that they did the tests on, but 30% longer they were living.
Mm-hmm. So if I understand it correctly, and I'm not a scientist, if you are, please chime in. So what it does is it kind of goes after the cells or the molecule that tells the cells to stop producing. So this is the thing that is responsible for us aging, is because certain things are obviously not being told to produce anymore, and so our skin gets on our hair and our
I think they call them zombie cells, essentially.
Right? Yeah.
And so it's kind of cannibalizing healthy cells. They become they essentially become a disruptive force within us.
Yes.
That essentially causes the breakdown of all of our various parts.
Now, the potential downside to it, from what I understand, these cells can actually be beneficial, because some cells need to be told to stop reproducing and to stop growing, right? Like the most notable one would be cancer. You would want something in your body that would tell that to stop producing, right? Which is what these cells do. So if this drug is targeting these, so awesome. Yeah, okay, I'm going to live forever, but I'm just going to be riddled with cancer.
Immortal cancers, no less.
Well, that's the best kind.
Yeah, that you'll remove and they will just form into another you and go on. Be this cool sci-fi thing. And I mean I don't know, and that's what the implications of this will be. Who knows, right?
Yeah, but I mean, all that aside, would you want to live forever?
Who wants to live forever? Yeah, absolutely. Anybody that says I'd get bored is a boring person, and they don't deserve to live forever.
But I just see it as, like we've so many people on this planet already, right? Like more than ever before.
We've just crossed 8 billion.
Yeah, and the whole circle of life is that, shocking, you die. Everything has to die. Everything. So this thing that, because we have this consciousness that arguably other creatures don't have, again, we don't know for sure, maybe, but because we have this, we somehow think that we are deserving to bypass this step, which is a natural part of life and that keeps everything going, which is we all need to die. And we somehow think that we're above this and we need to prolong it. And it's kind of, why? Why do we think we're better than anything else? And in my opinion, it's a little bit selfish, because it's like, okay, I expect to be here longer. So if I'm here longer, that means I'm taking up more resources, and taking that away potentially from somebody else, because I'm more deserving. So whoever comes next, kids that are being born now, fuck them. They don't actually deserve a chance, because it's all about me, and I should keep living. Fuck you guys.
Well,
what's the point of having children?
There's points to be made that we don't necessarily have a lack of resources, but just a misdirection of. right?
Well, I mean,
In
if no
that,
one dies and we keep popping out kids, yeah, we're going to have a massive lack of resources.
well, no, that's the problem, is that we actually don't lack resources. We actually have enough resources for everybody that's here. The problem is that there's waste and all these things that are going on that are essentially redirecting those from the places where they would be most beneficial,
Yeah, but the
right?
land, I mean, it's not like infinite in
No,
producing.
absolutely,
So if
absolutely.
nobody's dying and we just keep it, so our population goes up to, like 20 billion, yeah, these things are going to run out. We can,
Well, and so the other problem that we're facing right now is actually where male sperm counts have been dropping, the fertility rates are dropping.
yeah.
We're essentially running into a period where they're saying that by about 2100, the growth that we are seeing is not going to be happening anymore,
So
right?
naturally
Due
it
to
would just
various factures. Well, and
piddle
this
out.
is kind of the thing, right? Let alone the fact that we're going to be facing one of the largest die-offs
Yeah.
of the natural causes in human history. The baby boomers are on their way out. Sorry, right? And
Yeah.
that's
Shocking.
going
Everyone
to
dies.
really completely change the demographics of a lot of countries,
Yeah.
right? Where a lot of these now aging populations, when they go, it's going to cripple some of these places because they just don't have the immigration. They don't have the people coming in to fill those
Yeah.
gaps, right?
But arguably, that's the generation that's held us back from a lot of innovative change and growth. So
I mean,
I'm not saying that
I wouldn't
they're
want to call them hoarders
responsible, but maybe also it gives us some room to actually not rely on the systems that they built, that it's their system that would crumble because they imposed it. But then we can just maybe breathe and go, okay, how about we approach things a little bit differently this time around?
Mhm.
That would be nice. But now apparently they're all going to live forever, so we're screwed, I guess.
Well, they only get 30% more. So technically, if they've already used up
I don't want
90%
another
of it,
30 years of this garbage.
no, no, no. But I mean, if they've already used up 90% of it, they can only, like, 30% of 10% isn't a whole lot,
Okay, well, that was the
right?
question. So is it 30% of their life that they've already
Well, that's the
lived
thing.
will now be tacked
It's
on?
not going to tack on, like, if you were going to live to 150, it's not going to, right? Or if you were only anyway.
Yeah.
But I would assume that it's, if you get it earlier, you'll
Yeah.
live longer. Whereas if you get it, like, the amount of aging that's already taken place, I don't know how much of it's, if it's reversing
Yeah,
as opposed to just kind of staving off from happening,
sure.
right?
But
And I
that's,
mean, I'm sure they'll make more adjustments to the formula as they go,
yeah.
where it'll get better
I
and
mean, if
better.
you've already broken down and you're kind of crippled and you're like, I want to prolong this state.
Well, this is the question, right? Like you said, like if it's prolonging a state of agony where you have tumorous
That's terrible.
growths
Yeah.
coming in that have no way of stopping because they're now immortal.
Yeah.
you know, if you have immortal cancer, what does that what does that look like?
Hooray, immortality?
I'll be here forever. I'll be in agonized pain the whole time, but
But I think that does bring up a point that needs to be discussed, right? Because every generation, whether you want to admit it or not, you get very stuck in your own generation's way of thinking, right? So the boomers think that obviously they are the greatest things ever happened, and yeah, they've contributed a lot of great stuff, obviously, to the way our world works. But they get stuck in it, and then same with, what was it, Gen Z after that, and
I don't
then
know.
millennials and
I
whatever
always
else.
get
But
mixed up
everyone
on those.
gets very stuck in thinking that their generation is going to solve all the world's problems, right? And what we've come up with, we think is the best solution, right? And then whoever's below us is just like, oh, millennials fucking suck, and
Well, that's exactly. Let alone
so
shitting on the generations to pass,
well,
right?
it's
Like
just natural. That's what
this was all
happens.
your fault.
But so the generation that's kind of the driving force in the world at the time, which the boomers on the way out, we're kind of slowly getting there. But if they're hanging on to it, then what chance does that give for any of us to evolve, right? For humanity to move forward, if because you feel so entitled that you have to live forever, and now you're holding literally everyone back from change.
Don't do that.
Okay.
Yeah, see, problem solved.
Well, that was an easy answer.
Yeah, absolutely. Just don't do that. I mean,
I like when we have
stop holding everybody else back. I mean, it's pretty simple.
I mean, I think it's just a natural thing. You bond with you peers of your own age, and you feed off each other, and it's like, yeah, okay, we're great. And you obviously shit on the people that you blame for the cause of all your current troubles, and we have the answers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's just, I mean, that's a cycle that'll continue through time, but that is what drives things forward, right? Boomers came up with some great stuff. Next generations come along that are like, okay, let's take what works, let's throw away what doesn't, let's fix things, let's upgrade it, right? And then we'd, I guess, be the next ones looking at them going, okay, I like that, but also you're dumb, you need to change this, and right. But eventually, we just keep building towards something better, arguably,
Arguably.
hopefully.
Yeah,
Hopefully.
that's, like taking those tools that you made for us and hopefully making them better, right? I mean,
Yeah,
I
but you
always
got to give
thought
us the
there was,
chance.
well, that's the thing, right? Like I always thought there was no way of making a hammer better, and then someone invented this side puller thing where you can yank nail, and it's the best shit ever, right? Now they're making them out of titanium. I mean, it's like this stuff that you thought there was no way of improving, right?
Everything can always be improved, of
Even
course.
even these old stupid bodies of ours now, we can improve these things, and it's not just about exercise and eating well now. You can just go and get a shot, and it's all.
Ah, just another magic pill. Great.
Yeah, and
You don't have to
that's.
work on yourself at all in any way. Just take a pill, take a shot. That'll do it for you. That's what the world needs more of. Less self accountability. Great.
Yeah. Well, let alone the problem now, like you said, is everybody going to have access to this thing,
I
and that
would be very
becomes.
surprised if they
Yeah,
would. There's
and
no way.
that's. Yeah.
Pharmaceutical companies don't tend to just make things for the betterment of the world, shockingly. It's got to be money to be made. And this seems like something that would be very tailored to rich people.
But I mean, arguably, pretty much all of these things start out for the rich and then
Oh, of course, yeah.
trickle down to hopefully eventually, right? I mean,
Would it though? I mean, like, the
well,
peasants are
I
typically
mean,
left to just fend
we'd
for
get the
themselves.
watered down version that would only get you 10% more, right? Like we get the
We just
thirty
get the
percent, you get
version that
yeah,
only preserves tumors, and
you
that's
get the yeah, exactly, yeah.
it.
No, you just get the immortal cancers. The rest of you is definitely gonna
Yeah. But we gave you the
die.
shot. You
Yeah,
should be grateful.
but part of you is immortal. Isn't that good enough?
God, nothing will please you
I mean, I
people.
know it's the part that's tearing you apart inside and is going to kill you pretty quick here, but I mean,
But the
it
good
will
news
live
is
on,
you get to have more drugs and we get to make more money now forever
and your
because it's
cancer will live
immortal.
on.
Ah, lovely. Perfect. It's a win-win, really.
Mm-hmm. Yes, definitely. That sounds about right. Yeah, and that does sound like the apocalyptic scenario that they would like to foist on us. Yeah.
Well, I mean, it does kind of sound a bit apocalyptic to me. It's once you start messing with the natural order, which is, I'm sorry, you're going to die. This shouldn't be shocking news to anybody, And we've really just like migrated away from that. And again, it's our own fucking egos have gotten so big that we think we're the most important things that have ever graced the face of this planet. And I really think that like accepting your own mortality is one of the biggest things towards actually making you a more compassionate human being, right? We're all going around now with this, oh, we're immortal, and so, we don't need to give a shit. But once you really let that idea sink in of like, no, I am going to die. We all know this, but we don't really, it's not embrace it with open arms, like, yay, death. But like, accept that idea. And that's when you go, okay, shit, now my time here actually does matter. What I'm doing matters, right? Like when you go to bed at night, you really should have that going through your head of like, did I deserve to be here today? Did I do anything of consequence today, right? And that's not in our cultural way of like, how much money did you make today and whatever else, and how many likes did you get? No, I mean, like, did you do something nice today for another human? Did you smile at somebody? Did you say something nice? Did you say something nice to yourself, right? Like, was there anything about your day that was worth living? And I feel like you can't really ask those questions and hold yourself accountable until you accept this idea that you're going to die, right? And the more we keep putting this off, the more self centered we become.
Yeah. So there's a TV series that just came out called Limitless
Okay.
with Chris Hemsworth.
Okay.
And it's essentially like the first few episodes are him trying to kind of confront his fears and trying to get right, trying to move past these things. The last episode is essentially confronting him with aging and death.
Uh-huh.
And so they literally, like, they have a death doula come by and do a death meditation, and they literally have like the funeral of Chris Hemsworth.
Mm-hmm.
And it was really profound watching, because it's exactly that kind of thing you were talking about, how we don't take the time to really just appreciate us, appreciate this icky thing that we live in, right? Like, and just really get to terms with the idea that we are dying, we are going to die. And what does that really mean? Like,
Yeah.
does that mean the end of you, or does that mean that part of you will continue, right? Like, does it mean that you should live your life now as if you're going to die tomorrow?
Yeah.
Probably, right?
Yeah.
Because I think that's the part that we all want to think that we can live forever, but that bus is coming, man.
Yeah.
Right? That, and
It might hit you.
you don't know where it is. You don't know when it's gonna, right? Like, you don't know if it's just gonna clip your leg, or if it's gonna take you out completely, or if it'll knock you off into the
Yeah.
ravine and you'll bounce down. you know, and then 10 minutes later you finally reach the bottom of the thing. Like, that's we don't, and so live it to the fullest is essentially just what all we have right now is just,
Yeah.
take what we have, and the idea that, we don't, that we could extend our lives, and all you'd get out of that is more time staring at your phone. Like,
I
that's
really
the
want more time for scrolling. If
and
there's
that's
one regret I have in my life.
that's something we really have to come to terms with, is like, what is this life?
Yeah.
What
Like,
are you
what do you
really,
want more time
right?
for?
Like, what, you know and that becomes a real question mark.
Yeah.
Like, if you were given an extra 20 years, what would you do with them? you know if you knew that you didn't have that 20 years, what would you do with it? And that's the question. So, because we don't have any of those answers, the only answer is live today to the fullest. That's all we have. you know and that, just, embrace love. And sometimes that means being kind of icky.
Yeah.
But that doesn't
Yeah.
mean that, it's not your life to live, that you shouldn't embrace all of these things, as icky as they are, as fun as they are, as pleasantly surprising as they are. Like, this is your life, and it's all we've got. And sometimes all you get is ick. Sorry.
Well, it's just
Right?
it's life in general, I think, and it's, like the whole embrace your life obviously, but I think in doing that just embrace this life we have, which literally means everything else around you that is also alive,
Mm.
right? Because
Or
again,
dead.
that being stuck in your own head is like, well, what's the point there? It's, it's fine, but like to wake up and be like, oh my god, like this is amazing. There's another oh my god, there's plants there. It's every day is fucking miraculous to really
Realistically, every breath.
everything's
you know
miraculous.
the idea that we get to do this, right? And then have a thing out, and you get to keep doing
Yeah.
that, right? Like, it's all just
But you don't
miraculous.
appreciate it until
Absolutely.
you realize that it
Absolutely.
stops.
And that's, yeah.
And I think a big part of like our current society is we've moved so far away from spirituality. And again, this isn't in terms of just religion, but that did help to hold people accountable, right? It was, you could kind of be this shitty person, but every Sunday you were expected to show up and you contemplate your own mortality. That's the whole bottom line of most religions is you are going to die. So you're going to go to either a good place or a bad place. And it keeps you at least in check to be like, oh, right, I am going to die. Okay, right? So it was a check in. And now that we don't really have that as part of our culture because we haven't really replaced, again, the religious side of it is negligible, but we haven't replaced this accountability to our own spirituality, if that makes sense. So now this is why we've just run rampant, I think, with our own egos, is we have nothing to check us in frequently enough with that reminder of like, hey, you're going to die. Okay. With that in mind, like, would you die feeling better knowing you were a decent person to those around you? Or, if you were a shitbag, right? You need this reminder. Most people would be like, oh, yeah, okay, I probably don't want to be a shitbag on my deathbed. And it's also like thinking about that, I think gives you compassion for your fellow man as well, because death is actually the great equalizer. It doesn't care how much fucking money you have or how poor you are. We're all going in the same way. We're all going to fucking die. So it doesn't matter. And that should give you more compassion for that person that you perceive has more than you or less than you or treats you this way or you've done that to this person. It's okay, if you think of it in terms of we're all ending up in the fucking soil, then no one's any better than any other person. And the further we've gotten away from this idea of not thinking about it is why we have such perceived inequalities, I think. Or at least contributes to why we have these perceived inequalities, right? You've got $40 billion, cool, you will be dirt, same as I will be dirt. Great, yay, I'm so happy for your money. Like, we're the same. Mm-hmm. Unless you inject yourself with this thing and you'll live forever, and then I'll just be dirt. But
and you'll have immortal cancer. Yeah.
Yeah, we just don't have we don't have spiritual accountability the same way that was prevalent for most of human history, right? And again, religion itself has changed 1,000 times over, but there's always been some sort of spiritual practice, some sort of check-in accountability that has led us to, that's been the baseline idea. You're going to die, here's something to kind of keep that in check. And we've just, the spirituality, a lot of people are, obviously more spiritual and trying to open their own consciousness and everything else. But it's that accountability level of death, right? And decorative spirituality, for lack of a better term, is kind of what a lot of people do now. Is I'm so spiritual.
Sunday morning Christians.
Yeah, of course. And like I said, it doesn't matter what it is. You have the overt, whether that's going to church and like, oh, for appearances, or you have the I post on Instagram, here's me doing meditation, looking fucking great, and that means I'm spiritual and contemplating my existence. And you're like, cool, are you? Arguably, But we just don't have that as an expectation so much anymore, right? Like, you think even decades ago it'd be like, oh, that family that was like, they don't go to the community church on the Sunday to be a part of everything. Like, they're shunned, right? Again, I'm not looking at this from a yay raw religion or anything aspect, but it was you have accountability to your community and accountability to something keeping your soul in check. And that's kind of more why I think it was important in the past, was more so for that aspect. I mean, and then we get into religious wars and heresy and things like that. That's a whole different ballgame. But arguably why we had a stronger sense of community was because we had this, something to kind of question ourselves and make us think about being better humans, right? This free reign that we have now doesn't seem to be working so well.
Well, and I mean, realistically,
for a lot of
like,
people,
we've had philosophy for just as long as religion, right?
Yes.
Which arguably would be our endeavor without God, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Would be essentially kind of the not flip side of that, but the other side of it, right?
Well, I mean, that's what it all boils down to. But we need to be having something that has us consider that as a culture.
Yeah. I just don't think that, the idea of having some bearded dude in the sky pointing down.
God, I'm not.
Don't do that.
Right? I'm not saying that's the answer. Yeah. It was just as an argument as to, what's changed as to why we don't.
Yeah, that there hasn't been a replacement for that kind of social.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, because organized religions, it's a whole other fucking
and what
can
do you
of
replace
worms
it with,
over
Twitter?
there. But, well, apparently, yeah.
Right, like, yeah, and
the social media gods.
Like, what do you replace your Sunday, obeisance to? Obeisance?
Let us know. Vocabulary.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, like, they've shown that you can get the same kind of, social connection from joining a choir or an art class as you can from religion.
Yeah, right? But something that holds you accountable to other people.
But that's where they can get the same thing from a choir, right? Like, essentially, you're finding that social, construct of what's right or wrong in the same means of, right? Like, just all you need is a group of people. It doesn't have to be a group of religious people. It doesn't have to be a group of non-religious people. Just any group of people is going to have that social shaming ability, which essentially what religion is. It's just social shaming.
Yeah.
Right? So it's just a framework for that shaming that doesn't feel so much like shame.
Well, I think it's, yes, I mean, any group of people, but basically, like, what I was trying to get to is you need something that questions your mortality, and then you also need the group of people. But you can't get the benefits of that community and that feeling of actually caring genuinely unless you have that sense of mortality. However you get that.
Skydivers would
However you get that.
probably disagree. Right? I mean, the idea that any death-defying stunt could put you in the same. We could have a group of people doing anything, right? Like, yeah, hiking even, right? Like,
Well, of course. I mean, even just sitting here, one of us could croak at any minute. You don't know what's going to
more
happen.
just the social context of it, right? Where
That's
like
not the bonding factor of the group. That's
no,
not what
but
I
I
mean.
mean the idea that religion is the only thing that reminds us of death.
No, I wasn't
Right?
trying to imply that. It was just an example.
Okay. Yeah, just yeah. I feel like there's a lot of different ways of being cognizant of our imminent demise that doesn't require, again, that God dude being like,
no, it was
don't
just
be
something,
bad to people or else we'll send you to hell.
It was just something in the past that
yeah.
gave people that impetus to think about it that has now been more or less removed entirely from our society.
And this is where,
so again,
I've been trying in the back of my head to find the thing that has been replacing religion, and essentially it is just social construct, right?
Yeah.
Where we now don't need to have the church to be that gathering place for us,
yeah.
right? Where I think back in the day that was the hall,
yeah,
right? Like that was the space where everybody congregated on Sunday because that was kind of the only place in town. Where else were you going to go? The grocery store,
yeah,
right? So in terms of like a meeting place for everybody, that I think was the old time only way of doing it. Now we have the internet where you can find other groups that you can construct for yourself that don't have to have this overarching God kind of thing to have that, again, social shaming aspect of don't do that.
Yeah. I mean, to play devil's advocate in a way, though, we kind of need a little bit of social shaming sometimes.
But that's
right?
exactly,
like there needs to be some rules to be like, yeah, you shouldn't do that.
But it's just to find the replacement for religion,
Yeah.
right? Like that thing that people clung to for millennia because that was all we had.
Yeah.
We didn't have the science and all these things to be able to say, yeah, we've got other means to do this now, right?
Yeah.
Like that was the only way, or they would crucify you.
Yeah.
Right. So I think now, just to speak to how do we move forward from this thing is how do you what groups do you have out there that will allow you that kind of, is this the right thing to do or not, right? Like,
well, that's it. You need something to keep you in check. And if that's something for you is going to church on a Sunday, then all the power to you. That's fantastic, right? Like if that something is a group of people that are like-minded that hold you accountable for your own actions, that's fantastic. If you can somehow do that on your own through, like your own meditation and things, then that's fantastic. But we all need something that keeps us accountable to humanity, whatever that something is, right? And as long as it's not hurting other people, and I think that's the issue, obviously, with organized religion, is it's a lot of like, well, if you don't think this way, you're, a heretic and hypocrite and shitty person.
That's my issue with
but that's like
right?
any other group too,
like
if you're a fucking extreme, let's say, right-wing person, then anyone that's not that is also a shitty person that doesn't deserve to live. So there's in any group, there's always going to be the negative downside if you identify too much with it. But as long as you have something that just keeps your own humanity in check, i.e., okay, we're going to die one day. How can I be better to my fellow man? If that's a check-in, however way you check in with it, I think that's individual and up to you. And who am I to tell you, what works best for you or not? As long as you're not shitty.
But it sure ain't religion.
But as long as you're like, as long as your intent is like, oh, I just want to be the best version of myself that I can be, and sometimes I need a reminder to be like, hey, don't be shitty. However you get that reminder, that's up to you, and that's awesome. But everyone should be having that, I think, at the forefront most of the time. Because it's easy to get out of hand. It's easy to get too caught up in your own drama and everything else, right? Like, that you just sometimes need that, like, hey, don't do that.
Don't do that.
Just don't do that.
Keep your finger out of there.
Sometimes it's nice, though.
Keep a little wiggle going. And I mean, hey, if that's your thing, go for it, right? I mean, if the little wiggle is your, by all means. Yeah, and that's
Yeah, I mean, again, end of the day, we are all going to die, and even if that's the thing that needs to sink in for you, you know, you are going to, that person you envy everything about them and whatever, they're going to die. That person that you hate, they're going to die eventually too. So there you go. Vengeance, great. Like, we keep that in mind, and it suddenly does make a lot of things more clear, right? Like, that thought alone, at least for me, gives me a lot more compassion for everybody else. Oh, okay, yeah, you're heading there too. That's
maybe
scary for
that's
you.
why they were so shitty. Worried about death.
We all are. But it's, let's look at it as the, great shared thing that we're all going to together. Right? Or maybe not. Who knows? We won't know until we get there. But we're all going there.
My cancers will be immortal. So
it's my cancer will live on.
My cancer will be hosting this show long after my demise. Just move in, nobody will even notice I was gone.
Just talking to
Did he change his hair? Whatever.
Yeah, well. Seems like the same guy to me.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. So, am I the cancer or am I the me? Who knows? Maybe this has already happened. The swap over is complete. Who knows? God,
what if we've all just been taken over by our immortal cancers?
Oh, praise the immortal cancer! Yeah. All right. On that note.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if we actually got to anything.
Well,
as usual. Yeah.
I don't believe that there was even really a question on that one. So
that's true. There wasn't. It was just
there's no real answer for that.
Should we live forever?
Yeah.
I don't know. You tell us. What do you think? Do you want to live forever? Do you think there are benefits in it? What would be the benefits, right? I mean,
name one person that you think should live forever. Let's go there. Right?
Aaron's out. He doesn't get You can't choose Aaron.
I've already nominated myself. So. But that's like if there's if there's one person out there that you think that humanity would be better off if they were to live forever, who is it and why? Right? Like, let's throw that out there. Let's see if there's who would it be? I can't think of. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, but I mean, like, is your grandma the beneficial to humanity person that needs to live forever? Like, the idea that we're going to let the rich do this without questioning them why, seems to be, like, that's, should we start questioning who we think should live forever and why, right? Like, is this something that, there should be a set of qualifications for who we give this shot to,
Yeah.
Oh, you're too shitty. Sorry. Right? Like,
I think, you know what?
We've looked at your social media and you don't qualify.
I think if you want to sign up for it and have the shot and live forever, then I think you should be the first of the colonizers to go to Mars or whatever it is.
But that's one of the things that it could actually be beneficial for, right? Like the people that going on these long-term missions where we don't necessarily have the means to if it's going to be 100 years to get there.
Yeah.
Right? Like, do we have a living crew that's on there? We don't have cryogenics yet, so we can't really freeze people without turning them into some sort of soup at the end. So if we could make people live to 150 and have them crew these long-term voyages, is that something that
Well, then at least there'd be a purpose for it.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone should just deserve to live forever doing the same thing they've been doing on this planet. But if you're prolonging it for a reason such as that, then okay, I could get on board with that.
Will the instead of creating immortal cancers, will it actually cure in a lot of ways those degenerative diseases, right? Like, would we have a means of actually being able to treat those falling apart of the body kind of diseases that we don't really have any?
I feel like we should put a lot more efforts into that first, like before we just prolong our life that's riddled with disease.
Well, that's right. Like, if you're prolonging and those last 30 years are the agony and suffering.
Yeah. Like, right? Like, would anyone want to live 30 more years in that?
They cut my head off and it's still talking. I don't even know how. Yeah.
Anyway, again, let us know what you think. Chime in. They're still with us.
Yeah, they are.
I mean, arguably, or maybe not. Who
and
knows?
thank you so much for every second you've been here. We really appreciate all of it. You guys are the best. Absolutely the best for listening to all of this and, commenting and being part of this thing. We've seen a lot more of you speaking up. We really appreciate that. We try to reply to as many of them as we can, but every one of them, we see you and we appreciate it. Like you've been here and we're here for you. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Mm-hmm. All right, and on that note, you guys, hopefully we'll all live forever. Because you all deserve it, right? Right? Every one of you that's watching this show.
That's it. This group can live forever.
Absolutely.
Just another reason to subscribe to the Subvert Podcast.
The immortal Subvert Podcast. Soon to be immortal Subvert Podcast. Yeah.
Oh, indeed.
Yeah.
All right. Well, on that note, we will see you next time.
Thanks for listening. Have a great day.
Bye.